third row should have been on the inside number 27, but that car has withdrawn, so there's no Will Beach or Mark Rice there, but we do have the number 11 car, that's the Audi TT, started by Ryan Parkin. On row 6 on the inside, it's number 12, Scott Parkin in the Golf. Besides him is another Golf, that's 51, Luke Handley. As the safety car is peeled off, we're going to get underway then, but 2 hours and 5 minutes of racing, lights go out, away we go. Good start there by Carl Swift, tries to get up the inside of Will Stacey, who spins at the first corner as Carl Swift went up the inside of him into turn 1 at target. Luke Browse has spun there as well. Will Stacey's pointing in the wrong direction, so too is Luke Browse. What is Will Stacey going to do? He's going to have to do a J-turn and on the grass rejoin, get around the banking, and he will be right at the back of the field basically once he gets back onto the circuit.
One thing Cole Smith cannot afford to do is get a pin at a penalty for whatever reason, and he's just taken Will Stacey out of the race or out off the circuit, because there's not much room, is there, to go up the inside free of West in turn 1. Certainly, did he need to take that risk of that one of a 2-hour race when they're really in control of the championship?
Possibly not. We'll wait and see if anything is done about that, but it's done enough to get him into the lead of the race at the moment, on second place from Boston. The Audi TT is coming up the inside though. That's made a pretty good start to the race. That's Ryan Parkin starting that one. Swift that's leading from number 9 Rob Boston in second, number 11 in third place is Ryan Parkin on the outside of row 3, and the gap back to fourth position, that's by Gillespie, fourth place at the moment at the end of lap 1. We'll try and see exactly where Will Stacey comes through at the end of the first lap. The other car that was involved on lap 1 was Luke Browse as well. That was separate instance, separate spin there and target on the first lap of the race. There's the 14 car on Chris Freeman. He is doing back a couple of different laps, the number 92 Land Cooper on Andrew Brown.
For Ryan Parkin, that was a really good start, wasn't it? 6th on the grid in the TT, up into third place. I wonder how TT will deal with these conditions pretty well on the start at least. There is the leader with that tyre mark you can see on the front to left of the car. So where's that come from? Because it was the left side where the contact was made. So that's interesting. And then Boston in second. Remember, he's the Class B car. These conditions will need these passes to be equalised out a little bit. The power isn't so important. This track in general, with tighter sections, is hopefully heading that way. In fourth position is Colin Gillespie. Clearfield Driver had a good run yesterday to win the road course race. In fifth place is Chris Freeman. So he's involved in a Class B championship battle with Luke Handley. When you account drop scores, there is nothing between Handley and Freeman. We go across the line, 1:19 is Cole Swift first. That is qualifying out to 1:13, so 6 seconds off of their own time this morning. So you can see visibly in the background the conditions looking somewhat rough. There is Handley, just behind the Seat there of Andrew Raff, and you can see his championship rival in Class B with Freeman and teammates as well, just up the road. Then you get Ben Rushworth, who made a pretty good start just behind Scott Parkin. Ben Rushworth having his first ever lap on the Anglesey circuit this morning. The second place here up at Rocket, Rob Boston has come under pressure, hasn't he, here from Ryan Parkin. But if these conditions remain, Jack Harding's lap record's going to be safe, isn't it? Possibly 1:15.15 from a number of years ago now.
That's right. That was set in July 2017. We've also got direct Alan Henderson in Class B, and Porsche the Dogs at 1937 in Class C. So I suspect that these conditions stay as they are, but those lap records will remain intact. There's the 3 cars. So John Moore got back out into the race, and that is good position, isn't it? Getting ahead of Mark Lloyd Jones.
Look how much faster he is than all the cars in front of him. So this tyre change might have worked. He's 7 seconds faster than Mark Lloyd Jones, who's a pretty good driver. So he's quicker than all but the leader in his class, and he's only fractionally slower than the John Osborne BMW.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Mark Lloyd Jones, that car was about 14 seconds. That was the first lap off its pace in qualifying. compared to about 7 seconds, 8 seconds off the pace with John Munro, the leading car out there. They're only about 8 seconds off the pace. So yeah, I think it's more about some drivers being about cautious, maybe not as confident in these conditions as John Munro, a quick driver anyway, as we know. So
you talked about Mark Lloyd-Jones there. Of course, he was a driver starting the pit lane, performing well with that car. That he's one of the cars involved in that battle for the Class C Championship. 2.4 seconds with the lead for Cole Swift. We get Rob Boston up here. We look at the back of the fourth. Look at Ben Rushworth getting sideways. Go back to the old hot hatch days and his Integra driving like that. He's just got himself a hard stop parking. So Ben Rushworth enjoying these slippery conditions. He was saying he has to drive this car totally different to the Integra. It understeers a lot more, where the Integra oversteered quite a lot. So he's getting used to it, hasn't really done any testing in it, so all that happens at the track. And sideways here, that's a Gillespie, isn't it? Up the Scottish drivers out there. So that's allowed Chris Freeman to draw up alongside him. The Capture Motorsport Sayer's got the power, but Chris Freeman on the inside line there into Church Corner goes through, and that is 4th position now. So we've got as many Class B cars in the top 2 as Class A cars now. As the conditions continue to deteriorate, I think.
Yes, they seem to do. We've got a lap lead at the start of racing already as we go on to this 5th lap of the race. Moving round, you can see where he is. He is in 21st. Stacey's back to 14. He is lapping 121s. Not lapping as quickly as the leaders, but of course he has got traffic to zero. Maybe he can find some gaps, so we'll start to find a bit more time. At the moment, it's about 38 seconds, which is roughly half a lap behind the race leaders. Work lap 6 of the race. We've actually about completed that now for the Class Swift and Rob Boston, top 2.
Ben Rushworth continues to improve. He's got himself up ahead of Luke Handley now. So from 13th, Rushworth is 7th. So this is a good drive. We saw a similar thing in Sneckerton when he started in the pit lane and worked his way up inside the top 6 before the car had a problem and he had to retire it. So this is a good drive from Rushworth. You comparing lap time compared to the drive this morning, he's only 5 seconds off. So I think he's probably the closest of anybody to his drive over lap time is Ben Rushworth, and he's immediately now on terms with the other Stayers ahead of him, of Andrew Rapp and of Colin Gillespie. It's the battle behind him between Luke Handley and Scott Parkin continues as they all head uphill past the traffic.
That's the battle for 3rd position within Class B, 8th place overall. Then it's a lap after Jones and ECU Products. Rocket, and now head towards Dion, past that BMW.
Chris Freeman is within a second of the fastest lap of the race in Class B Gold, so he's going well. In 4th, so he's ahead of this group.
Yes, it is. Yes, that will be 20.21, a best lap on the finish lap. Even though we did it in 50, we're on our time this week. Times are coming down. So it's balanced the fact that it's getting slightly wetter out there, possibly. Drivers getting more confident what grip levels there are in the track at this stage of the race. It's not declining very steeply in track conditions. So here's 6th and 7th. It's Andrew Rapp from the 90 Ben Rushworth at 52 car, 41-year-old from Alberta, the ECU Motorsport man. The actual on-package champion, previously started racing 8 years ago now. There he is, and he is now ahead of Andrew Rapp as we're watching the battle for 8th. Handley and Parkin here, Parkin and Darkside Developments car, Handley at the end, the Motorsport car, the white and grey car, and turning its way to the back there, the orange Scirocco, the red car, Rodrigola, solo today, and first visit to Anglesey, the Dutch lady. As well.
I'm not sure many sims, if any, have accuracy, so I'm not going to do as much practice where she's more comfortable. Heading down into the 4-3-1-4 fastest lap of the race comes from Rob Boston in the Class B car. That's the fastest lap overall, 1 minute 19.28. He's catching Cole Swift there for the gap of 3.3 seconds. So can Rob Boston lead the race in a Class B car? It's going to be a possibility. He's such a talented driver, raced at a reasonable level. Side by side, is Rushworth going to get another place here? He's alongside Gillespie now for 5th into Church Corner. Gillespie was testing on Friday, I think. He was the racing yesterday. Ben Rushworth just turned up this morning and he's working his way through the order. He's into 5th position. He's got a bit of a gap now, so we'll see what kind of pace Ben Rushworth has got now with a bit of clear track ahead of him.
Yes, absolutely right. Yes, there's a gap to be made up there, isn't there? A couple of seconds. Oh, the spin there. I think that might be down and spin on the exit. That part of the block. More traffic being negotiated. It's a relatively short lap here at Anglesey, 1.55 miles. That's about 1 minute 20. The quickest cars in these conditions, so we do end up with this situation where the traffic does move rather quickly. As we watch it, Gillespie go through. Hazy to there in the Class C. BMW Class C at the moment has been led by Joel Osborne and Dan Orsano. And they are ahead of the full third. The sheer that class of Steve Norman and Ron Pinlock who heads that class. Starts that car, 3 minutes left to go. There is the 14 car of Chris Freeman. It has now been caught by Ben Rushworth. This isn't the class position, of course, because Chris Freeman's gone to the Class B car. Yellow flags there, you mentioned the bottom of the hill. That's got the issue at the top of the hill as well.
The lead gap's just a second now, so Rob Boston's closing in quite quick in all of this. So we'll have to check out that gap at the end of the lap as Ben Rushworth is drawing up right with Chris Freeman now, who is a couple of seconds behind a couple of laps to go. Lead gap probably back out a little bit on this lap, I can see it. Here they are, then let's have a look. Cole Swift the leader, they're second. Rob Boston through next, is third, which is Ryan Parkin. Then there's the lap cars, and then the rest of them a little bit further back. The gap is 2.6 seconds. So the gap's a sideways moment for Cole Swift there. He has lots of understeer as he corrects it, but the car moving around. Well, he's happy with that, I can imagine, with his talent levels. So Cole Swift pushing on and lapping the Browse car. So lapping the car in 18th position up next. I think the lead gap is changing about with the traffic. There goes Swift then up the inside of the 2 lap cars. The yellow flags have gone in now, haven't they? So he made sure he got past before he got into the more technical section where it's not so easy to overtake. Rob Boston is going to have that challenge. Driver there in second position.
Yep, Lotus. It's just that's the third place car as well of Ryan Parkin, so he seems to be closing in a little bit as well on the top 2. The Audi TT that he shares with Daniel Smith wasn't particularly happy with Silverstone last time out. So things to go better here. So the top 3 are coming across the line to finish their 10th lap.
And another fast lap here for Rob Boston at 119.19.
Immediately it's been beaten by Ryan Parkin, who's got 119.08. So Parkin, the quickest driver on that lap, the quickest driver out there in all at the moment. So there's 1.59 seconds between the 2 leaders. It is about 2.6 seconds between the Lotus of Boston and the Ryan Parkin Audi TT.
And Ben Rushworth's 4th now. He's got himself up ahead of Chris Freeman. He's 5 further seconds behind the TT. They had such a quick lap last time. Ryan Parkin was going through the shot there. Great to see the TT up there. Types of cars at the front as well, the Seat, the Lotus and the Audi, separated by not very much after 10 laps of racing.
We're not quite as overwhelmed as some couple of our the previous so not quite as many of them here this weekend. you've got 2 Lotuses on the front row. That box is 118.5, the box runner is 118.50. So making things faster.
Ryan Parker goes even faster than that, like the previous lap, 118.31. So now we're only 3 seconds away from the lap record, and so are the conditions starting to improve a little bit. Perhaps the lap times start to come down a little bit. It's free abreast here into turn 1. Luke Handley was involved in that. He's dropped to 9th, I think, now behind Scott Parkin. Yeah, he's got a long way back to. So Luke Handley, Class B Championship leader, not having such a good time in the first part of this race. And he's now coming under pressure from Matt Basie, who's out there in the Porsche Cayman. The only Porsche in the race here. And then Will Stacey is next, 11th, but he doesn't seem to have so much pace like he did in the dry qualifying session. And he's 20 odd seconds behind his car as well, so got a lot of work to do at this stage. Will Stacey for that first lap instant. The current race leader, Cole Smith, 1.5 seconds ahead of Rob Foster. Basie there, a bit wide, trying to get past the traffic. That's Julian McBride. I don't think he's probably enjoying these conditions terribly. The BMW M3 currently runs in 20th position.
Yes, so the car in 10th place, that was the car 20th.
Ben Rushworth, fastest lap of the race. The driver who qualified 13th this morning is now the quickest driver on the circuit. 118.21 for Ben Rushworth, just 9 seconds behind the race lead.
Ben Rushworth, his teammate, Ramsden then in this race.
Ben Rushworth is saying they don't know how to get the dry setup as good as Larry Motorsport have run this car for much longer. They can't really afford to go testing much either. But now the conditions have changed, where driver skill perhaps pays more off, and he's so happy with driving a car that slides around. We saw that so much in the Hot Hatch Championship. Really being shown here in 4th position. And can Ben Rushworth start to catch those 3 cars ahead of him? He's had to learn so much this year. He's normally done 15-minute races and completed much longer stints here, which he's not used to. He's used to getting knackered after a stint. And also lap traffic is not something he's really had to worry about too much.
We're going to get a good scrap, I think, second in Class C, because quite close together now are Hayes and John Monroe. Well, 66 that's fine, respectively. That's a good scrap in the Boston. They're both quite a long way clear. Jim also got entry of John Sano.
Ben Rushworth was a full second faster than all the cars in front of him on that lap, so the gap between 9 seconds to the leader is now 8 to 3.7 seconds behind Ryan Parkin in the Audi TT. Here's Stacey as we cross the line, so he's still there in 11th.
We've got the battle we're still talking about now, Josh. That's the battle for second, and John Munro has got through. He's got ahead of Johnny Hayes. So number 3, John Munro takes second place in that Mazda MX-5 that pitted at the beginning of the race. Got new tyres put on it, and what lap times has it been doing? Well, he has done a 1:27.09, getting the Hayes to be on a time when he picks up to 1:30. The best lap for Munro is a 1:25.88. That's 1:28 for Hayes. 1:25.88 is only about 7.5 seconds off the best lap time, whereas this morning, how far off would that be? About 8 seconds. So the pole position, front running pace.
How do you compare to Joel Osborne, who leads the mark?
Joel Osborne, they're better to 1:24, the lap of 1:25, so he's not really going to catch them right now.
A good drive by John Munro in a car that was telling him that really lacked power to get some of the competition. There is the Class C leader, so there is Joel Osborne in the German Auto Works BMW, just ahead there on the road of David Goodwin as the intersection of Munro up to second now in the class, and third for that BMW Fabiani. Fourth is going away on Joe Ritchie, fifth position on Matt Himlock. There is Munro then in second in the class. There's Will Stacey, so he's 11th. He's still 40 1.2 seconds behind the leader like he was earlier, so he's lacking the same time as the leader. His teammate, though, just done the fastest lap of the race, Rob Boston, has done a 1 minute 17.62, so he continues to push on, 2.6 seconds behind the race leader, Cole Swift.
There we can see Scott Harkin, number 12, 8th position, second place in Class B, down to the fourth screw there. That's got no penalty for him. So something just to pit lane in the future.
There's Rushworth in fourth place, 8 seconds behind the leader now. On the last lap he was a full second faster than Ryan Parkin, who was only 1.9 seconds in front of him. I can't see Parkin ahead of him now. So has Rushworth made a mistake, or has the Audi TT made the error?
The Audi TTs in the pits.
Is that what the penalty for? Yes, it is.
There it is in the penalty box. So
I think it was a minute instead.
Something like
all those yellows going uphill and overtake. Shouldn't, but you could have overtaken that section. So, after a really good stint for Ryan Parkin, he's got right out the order therefore, and he's going to rejoin right by the leader, Cole Swift, who's not leading by much anymore because Rob Boston's only 1.2 seconds behind. He's at the fastest lap ago, so they head off down towards the banking. And Cole Swift is just behind Ryan Parkin. That's not going to help his situation particularly. So they're headed down towards Church Corner, these two leaders. There they are, there's Cole Swift, just 1.2 seconds ahead then as they go through Church. And just behind him, the Class B leader, Rob Boston. There he is in the local lead, the fastest driver on the circuit.
Looking at the list of possible penalties, that's the only thing that's going to be an overtaking of the yellow flag. That's back, effectively back lap together.
Swift has got past, past Parkin, so that's quite handy. It might be doing Rob Boston to do that, but he won't have the power in a straight line. More yellow flag.
Yes, this is on the look out the windows to see it's Swift getting out. It's got this got a dissimilar pace between himself and Rob Boston, so you say that could be quite helpful to him. But he might well keep Rob Boston there for time. Here's Chris Webster, that was the Chris Webster car. There's the orange Porsche Boxster of Michael Down. This is 76. See where he is. At the moment, he's second. Class B drive. We're trying to spin for Mark Lloyd Jones at number 98. That's at the top of the circuit, so that might well have been the yellow flags. He's joined. Let's say Mark Lloyd Jones going back out of the race.
There's Swift. Boston managed to lap Parkin too. He hasn't, has he? So that might start to hold him back. We know Ryan Parkin's pretty quick. He's in a 12th position at the moment. But now with one of the fastest. Oh, he's got past, hasn't he? So he's coming around getting past. So he's got there by Rob Boston then to get into second place in the, well, he's still second place in the race, but now without any traffic between himself and the leader, Rob Boston, a former Race at Remembrance race winner, afterwards winner, and he knows the circuit really well, and he's chasing down the race leader, Cole Swift. 1.6 seconds is the gap. Ben Rushworth's chase has sort of come to a pause now because he's starting to pull away again from the top two. Who head their way through the bank in different lines being used. Front-wheel drive, heavier Sayat, rear drive lighter motors, therefore in these conditions perhaps needing to use different lines for that to be a factor. Of course, something that also will be a factor later is the pit stop penalties from the success last time out at Silverstone, which includes Cole Swift and Rob Bacon's third and second stop.
Yeah, we're going to have a run through there. So here, what, 5 5 minutes or so to pit lane window will open. And then there has to be a 3-minute stop made between them again. If you have successful demonstration, additional length of stop. So you can say, oh, 1 o'clock, wait for 30 seconds. Then Bamson and Ben Bush will have to start on left 20 seconds, Colin Gillespie and Phil Bryant for next 10 seconds. That's me, speaking for next 30, Happy for 20, Steve Houston and Matt Fagan for 10. In classic, John Osborne, then also next 30, Nick Dougal and John Monroe. In most cases, the main contender in the class that get there, the exception is Boston.
Yeah, those capital class A's, victory, that could change how we're going. The fourth on the road, Colin Gillespie and Chris Freeman have got themselves together. That's Gillespie, I think, coming through the order on recent lap. He got himself ahead of Andrew Rapp, and now he's got himself ahead of Chris Freeman as well. As they lap the Holden, you thought they might have a problem with this race. They've actually got to 14th, not too bad, is it, considering the conditions there for Will Ashmore. And Will Ashmore is fighting for the Clubfoot Cup Championship, just a few points ahead of the Roses. But they've not travelled to Anglesey. They're third in the championship, I think, Nigel Greenfield, David Good in a big spin out of Church. That's for one of our Class C front runners. Paul Saviani's had a big rotation out of Church Corner. He's facing the wrong way on the wet grass. There he is. It's a difficult job for him to get back on the road, but he's done it.
Yeah, it's the 66 car of Casden. It's back on to circuit. It's Colin Gillespie. And a spin for Yvonne Houffalard, and she collects number 14, Chris Freeman, the second place car in Class B, and he's got damage, I think, to the radiator of his car. There's damage to the suspension of Yvonne Houffalard's Scirocco, though, as well. I suspect this is going to lead to an interruption.
3 minutes to the pit stop window.
Yes, before the pit stop window is about to open. Freeman's car is down. I suspect that's going to be a combat, as will be, I'm afraid, the team of Scirocco. Yvonne Houffalard, who spun from the outer field, and poor Chris Freeman had nowhere to go.
This is Class D Championship consequences. As a safety car scores are being prepared, because Chris Freeman, when you took your scores into account, equivalent, and you talk us through what happened.
Yeah, so we've got Yvonne Houffalard, just the back end of the car stepping out, he lost grip and just nose to nose. This wasn't clearly the two cars that's damaged the right front suspension of Yvonne Houffald's car, and I suspect it's the radiator of Chris Freeman's car that's the most significant problem. So Yvonne trying to get the car moved. Chris Freeman has got his car back to the pits, but it's looking a bit launched.
You've got to populate. Going briefly.
Yes,
but the safety car has gone out onto the circuit.
Yes, so 2 minutes or so for the lane to open. These cars just sort of stopped there. There's no team as yet having gone to assist there. They are arriving.
I wonder if they told them to stop because damage the car even more. But they want to, with the potential of cars pitting very shortly, the officials won't know.
Yes, exactly. Stop the scrutiny saying, get the car out of the way. A spin for Ed Christie.
And the Rouse car has stopped as well, going up the hill towards the Rocket hairpin.
Yes, that's just on the right hand side of the circuit. There it is on screen now. That's off the track. So
are we going to be at a point where the pit stops could be made on this lap? But you've got this fuel issue, haven't you? You've got to have a fuel tank that'll last an hour and a half.
Three back months that now away past. It is now Carl Swift of Boston behind.
This is going to bring Will Stacey right back into contention, and with that penalty for Carl Swift for making the pit stop. Now everyone's close back together for 4 minutes.
And I can see that the Chris Freeman car is being pushed away by the team. Clearly contending for a major honours now in Class B.
Is that fluid? They going to pick up a slippery track. They have to be cautious on them. Well, we saw Edward Christie spin, didn't we? I wonder if that's related to the fluid on the circuit.
Yeah, so the driver's got to try and pick away some debris and some fluid under the hooflast car that's on the circuit here. So the safety car.
Brain lost in position.
So the marshal rushing towards the next car.
The pit window is
Okay.
going to open as the cars get here, aren't they?
Yes. Safety car opens the pit window.
Leader stays out. Stays out. So Rob Boston's in. The second place man is into the pit lane. Ryan Parkin is following him. Ben Rushworth stays out. The Genetti's coming in, the Webster car. Driver stays out. So I think a lot of people don't think they can do over an hour and a half on fuel here by the looks of it.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it? It is sort of important to the race that you're trying to do on what's actually good.
Not as much fuel with the conditions.
And on the safety car, that will possibly more safety car time as well.
So Rob Boston's obviously taken the punt, hasn't he, to be the first man in. You're going to lose a lap, aren't you? 3 minutes, I would think.
Yes. Right.
So it's just a 2 in, isn't it? So 9 Rob Boston and Webster. And fuel going into those cars. Luke Rouscar hasn't got back going, has he? So that's back going.
Going to be covered, I think, by the coverage truck those we sent out onto the circuit momentarily, I'm sure, just as soon as there's a suitable gap in the traffic. Number 5 comes in. It's Jonathan Packer in his Golf. He was in 10th position.
Yeah, he wasn't up there, was he, with the other Golfs that had been going well. The best of them was, of course, that one who unfortunately got caught up in the incident, not with 3 minutes hold the door. But he got caught up in that incident a moment ago. But he was the leading of them. Jonathan Packer's in the championship hunt. They've got scores to account for 8 behind him.
You see one of them out in the Browse car, so that's going to be hauled out of the way. The other truck is just making its way around the circuit to take a moment or two to get to the Browse car. So as well. Through. Lance Swift just behind the Rob Boston into the pit lane. Show what times he doesn't need it, that means he has to use the pits, and therefore the timing line first. The pit stops at least 3 minutes because the penalties that have to be served, so it's quite a long time. Plenty of time to checks done as well as the number 8, that being in at the drive cable display to have everything back into the car.
Leaders in the end, Swift is come in to hand over to the boss, Rob Baker, who was telling me that he had the fastest lap pairing more often than not this year.
Yeah, Rob Baker is there, he's late to into the car, isn't he? Usually he's constantly most of the race. And looks like Rob Baker's going to take on that round on this occasion.
With Stacey in, who, as I say, might be caught right into contention here, going to park up against team boss. Also in his field, he's Colin Gillespie, who handed over to field driver. He went pretty well yesterday. The Ford GT man. And whoever stays car, I think it's been a bit awkward. They've been having to remove it. Put it back into place. Rob Boston is prepared to go out with red lights at the end of the thing.
The station company, so that's going to be the longest stop for the station.
Right, okay. But as long as he gets out and gets on the third lap. Now is the tyres being changed to the area Saya. The car jacked up, I see. There's the capture car. Human Pride is in as well.
Yeah, so most cars, yeah, cars now coming in. So, makes all of that probably good on cars as well.
Yeah, I know, I saw that in the video.
They think that they can change tyres. Down there. Still racing with Union Pride there. They had the jack out. Fancy bit of PAG engine, isn't it, in the race prepared engine in the Seat.
You can see the team got to sort of wipe the inside of the windscreen as well. It's obviously a piece of film, and that's been causing problems for Colin Gillespie. Take that in the second half race. These are the kind of conditions, the mild conditions, but noisy conditions.
So I just come in and it's build up to this.
Got a package just to miss his chance to get out of the circuit. The lights have gone red and he's drove through them.
Oh dear, yes. That's coming in the wrong way with the lights going red there. Looks into, I'm sure, because this race goes on by the authorities.
Michael Downey's got damage on his box, hasn't he? There is another quarter out there. He's lost his front bumper though. Ben Rushworth's gone through to lead the race. Scott Parkin is staying out too, I think, and Andrew Rapp, they're the top three.
Yes, that's right. The first car behind the safety car now, though, is the Barrett's BMW, isn't it, I think?
Yeah. So there's the area motorsport team. Got Luke Handley up next to teammate Rob Baker. So through has gone Rob Boston to, I think, basically overtake him for position on the track. That will all come clearer once the safety car period is over. There's Luke Handley, one of our Class B contenders. There's Stacey now. Is Stacey going to get out ahead of Baker? He is. So Will Stacey gets back ahead of the car that he had contact with at the start of the race, and they're going to be together on track on a restart here. But now with Rob Baker in the Seat.
Couple of the MX-5s in below us. Matt Pemlock handing over to Steve Dolman and Joseph Ritchie to Paul Sherd. And they're going to have the best part of an hour and a half to do in this race. So quite a few teams taking opportunity of this safety car that came as early as it could do in the sort of relation to the pit window to make their stops. Of course, there's always the possibility we might get another safety car within the window, but they've decided not to take the chance and waited for a second one.
I'd imagine as well with Ben Rushworth and James Ramsden, there's the assumption that Ben will be a bit quicker,
yes.
So therefore they're staying out and seeing what happens as the race goes on, basically.
I think that makes sense if you do have a driver pairing where you have one driver felt to be quicker than the other.
I'm not sure all is well here, is it, with the Drybrough car, because we saw the bonnet up on that, and I think it's been in longer than it needs to be right now.
Yes, so that was up there, but we'll be losing ground here. The safety car's doing laps in about 2.5 minutes at the moment, so you're only losing a sort of probably a lap, aren't you? While the safety car's out, where you probably lose 3 laps in, or getting on for 3 laps in by pitting in under race conditions, normal conditions. There's a lot of fluid down, I think, from the Chris Friedman car. Some of it was dressed, but not all of it could be further up the pit lane.
Matt Fazy stayed out, didn't he, in Steve Hewson's Porsche. Scott Parkin, has he been in as well lately?
I know Matt Fazy, talking of him, he's a very great advocate and really enjoys driving at Anglesey, so that's possibly why he is called in. The 12 car going back out into the race, that's Scott Parkin.
He did pit, yeah. So Rob Boston in 10th is the leading stopper, isn't he?
I think that's right.
Ahead of his teammate Will Stacey, and then the erstwhile leader Rob Baker now in the hands of taking over the car from Colin Swift led. So yeah, this pit stop's still ongoing. It's down at Capture Motorsport.
Yes.
The Road Sports winners from yesterday obviously have had problems. And therefore falling down the timing of the screens, but not losing as much time now, obviously, than if we were under green flag conditions.
That's right. So for the moment at least, the race order's not going to make a huge degree of sense, but we do think Rob Boston is the leading stopper at the moment, with Stacey I think second in stoppers, and Rob Baker third in stoppers, their 10th, 11th and 12th overall. And there's the Scirocco still trying to cook that car. They're having to attack it from a different angle now. They can get it on backwards, which is the original thought. Try and pull it on forwards.
One corner that's not going to be very helpful.
Yeah, right front damaged as we saw.
Some kind of fluid or something that's come out that
Well,
day.
they've got the hose pipe on it as well though earlier, haven't they? So I don't know if that's something to do with what's going on.
It's not been a good day for that team because before the race even started, we lost the Beach and Bryce car. Now the teammate car is in strike.
That's hard work. That is really hard work, waving 2 yellow flags in these conditions. So well done to the marshal on post day. But I think he might be doing that. He was looking for some shelter, I think there. Yes, many thanks to all of the marshals here at Anglesey this weekend. As we always say, we couldn't go motor racing without you. Do an invaluable job. It's really appreciated, especially in these conditions, by all of the teams, all of the competitors as well. John Barrett is picked on about number 7. So he was the first car behind the safety car, although he's a bit further down the order, 15th. So that car's going to be refuelled.
That's the Motorsport team down there.
Spinner, that's interesting. Yes, it is the Julie McBride car. That's spun coming out of the final corner, obviously behind the safety car. It's pointing in the wrong direction. It's got the car fired up again. Going to get the car, trying to get the car turned around. It's going to reverse the thing. It has got plenty of gap to do that right now.
Not much is occurring though.
No. So I wonder if the car. Oh no, there we go. It's reversing. Can hopefully get the car turned back round and can get back into the safety car train.
I think it's windy out there.
I think it might be. The noise on our mics tells you that. The flags being waved by the marshals tell you that. Really horrible conditions out there now. And it can get like this at Anglesey very readily. Indeed, obviously a very exposed location on the Irish Sea coast, the Irish Sea just yards away. And this is a significant pit stop as well, because this is David Gooding coming in to hand over to Nigel Greensall in the 179 car. Nigel is now a very quick and experienced professional driver. So he's taking over for the second part of the race. We did a good job yesterday as well in Motorsport, didn't we?
And these conditions surely will suit what he can do in a car. Whether the M3 suits the conditions is perhaps a different matter, but I'm sure it'll suit Nigel Greensall. So rapid. Second in the car. The starting rate for David Good in a Jaguar E-Type. They've moved into this M3 this year. Looks like Jeff Steel Racing running the car for them down there in the pit lane.
I think he still has the lap record of a coupe, isn't he, on the original circuit?
That will never get beaten.
No, indeed. Pre-chicane layout in the Formula 1 car. I remember him racing at Mallory car. Formula 460 also one of the races he raced there. Good question. I'm told that Marcus Simmons is probably the man that would know, so he keeps track of the fastest laps every circuit each year. Not Hampton, the Autosport journalist. Right, everyone who follows cars being recovered, so soon I would think we will be able to go back to green flag racing. You can still see the Colin Gillespie Phil Driver car, which should be being taken over by Phil Driver in the second part of the race. That is still in the pit lane. We've got a driver in the car, but it's been in there for 10 minutes, not more now. Maybe 15 minutes it's been in there, that car.
The well-known website of information suggests a Gould, which is really a cool type car, 1017, which we weren't that far away from earlier with the Jedi.
Okay, Sylvie Mullins, the Irish racer. So, possibly the Irish boss race. That's the motor could be over. so well, the Gillespie cars was about to go back, and then I think there was just some concern, something on the left front, and check that, and that car was going back out of place, but it has lost not as many laps as it would have done, of course. It's probably lost about 4 or 5 laps though in this safety car pit, an extended pit stop there. You can see the marshals doing their best to dress the fluid that's been put down, oil I think it is, that's been put down by Chris Freeman car when that came into pits.
Did you notice any Class C cars that came in? Because obviously now in 6th position overall is Joel Oswick.
I didn't see, did I? Yes, Paul Sherman and Richard came in.
Shiggly, but
Yes, Steve Dongles and Matt Pinlock came in. I didn't notice about Hayes and Subiani, and I didn't notice about Nick Dougal and John Monroe, but I expect they'll want to keep Jim Monroe out there as long as possible.
yes, that could be interesting, couldn't it? But I think we're about to get racing back underway, are we, with Ben Rushworth? We'll have a clear lap for a few laps of this race. The safety car comes in, and Ben Rushworth will accelerate out of the final corner and see a green flag.
And he will want to get as much time between himself and anyone else as he can here. He's got the clear track ahead of him, so he'll get 2 or 3 laps of that, and this could be quite important in terms of his overall finishing position.
The battle to probably watch, the cars coming across the line now, Will Stacey versus Rob Baker, as they go down towards turn 1, the Lotus and the Seat, to see who's got the pace at this point of the race. Of course, Rob Boston there is ahead of them, as there's an instant for one of those Class C cars.
Johnny Hayes is off the road, trying to get the car turned before he got to the barriers at the banking, and he did. So that's at least the second off that he has had. He's getting back out into the race, the number 66 car.
And there's Boston, then 2 cars between he and his teammate Will Stacey, and then behind him is Rob Baker. So they're the top 3 cars to have pitted at this stage of the race. There's Stacey then, just behind the Class C leader, Joel Oswick. He's not going to be behind him for long. Goes down the inside of the German Autoworks car and goes through. So Stacey's race has come back to him now, hasn't it? Where it looked to be in tatters at turn 1 of the race. But situations have changed, and now he's right back in it. And on this restart, the Lotus, the leases look pretty good.
Yep, they do. So we need to see how things will pan out. Conditions, I think, look as if they've improved a little bit while the safety car's been out. They're not quite lashing the windows as it was. Still very windy out there, as we know. But we'll see what the lap times look like as this race gets back underway. No.
Oh, Stacey's car's got a problem. There's smoke coming from it.
Yes.
So how situations change.
Yep, and it looks like he's going to pull off there quite soon. So Will Stacey, number 49, looked like he got back into contention. Now out of it again with problems. We saw him have dramas early in the Motorsports race yesterday as well, when he'd done a tremendously good job in qualifying, but he's going to pull off onto the infield here. Now the question is, where's he going to put it? Because it's a long way to the marshal's post, and if he leaves it there, I suspect we might have to have another caution period. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. I may be wrong.
So Rushworth pulled out 10 seconds on that first lap in. He was lapping way faster than anybody else. Obviously everyone else was in traffic. Oh, the Holden that's 4th has gone straight on at the hairpin. We'll get back on though for Will Ashmore.
And that's a change for 2nd place there, because Matt Fazy now in the Porsche Cayman has got ahead of Andrew Raff in the Seat Leon. And of course that's a Class B car for Matt Fazy, who loves Anglesey. Not quite sure what he thinks about the rain, but nevertheless he's going well. Got cars on really trying to sort themselves out. You've got Ryan parking there. Safety car is coming back out, as I hinted that it might do. I don't think the yellows have gone all the way. Yes, they have gone all the way around the circuit. So we've got yellow flags and cars side by side once again through the corkscrew. So they really need to sort themselves out into some kind of an order.
Well, we've already seen penalties for overtaking under yellows.
Yes, so we'll keep an eye on whether we get any more.
Andrew Raff has pitted, by the way, immediately once the safety car boards come out, as has Michael Downing. But from 3rd place, Andrew Raff.
Yes, so safety car has picked up Ben Rushworth. So that 10 seconds or whatever he gained is now gone. He's got Matt Fazy right behind him now. And Rob Boston then is the next car through, and that is for position, isn't it? Yes, he is up to 3rd place now with this. The Abu Raff car coming in. So Rob Boston now in a really good position here, and not such a good position as it turns out. I don't think. Although that Boston's a lap down, isn't he?
Yeah.
That. It's a lap down.
He should cycle to the front when others pit. Do you reckon it's still not raining so much here?
Well, I think it was when I said that, but it is now. It's raining a bit harder again as this safety car's going. So you can see Will Stacey here, we're getting wet. He's out of his car over there on the exit of the banking, on the infield, and so that hole needs to be covered. Of course, the two recovery trucks have also got to offload the cars that they've picked up in Ron Houffala's car, and there's some damage to Michael Downey's car for the first part of the race. We get the two recovery trucks, actually they've already offloaded their cargo and are heading over to collect Will Stacey.
Couldn't really see much damage on Stacey's car, so for what looks like a dramatic moment on that first lap from the vantage point we had, perhaps there wasn't quite the contact that what would first seemed to be the case.
Yeah, well, I wasn't completely sure that there was much contact because he did get down the inside, did Carl Swift, and it was bold, it was decisive, but I think Stacey managed to keep out of the way. He didn't go off, but I'm not sure there was contact there necessarily. The recovery truck has now arrived at Will Stacey's car. Oh, there goes our camera. With 1 hour and 14 minutes left to go. Slippery surface pack is out as well, and that is because the car of Will Stacey obviously put some fluid on. So it's smoking, but there's also been some fluid coming out of that car as well. And so that needs to be dealt with as well. So try and press that. The 169 car is into the pit lane. That's Ben Salmon handing over to William Lynch. One of the Class A cars, the BMW M3.
So we're heading towards the second half of the race now, aren't we? I think it's in kind of penalty area.
Yes, that's the 5 car of Jonathan Packer.
The red lights, that would be.
Yes, we saw that be reported. So he's having served that penalty. There's Will Stacey's Lotus being towed away. So depending on whether there's anything that's done, and obviously in these conditions it's increasingly difficult to come out through this real tunnel circuit. But if there's nothing done about it, then we'll be able to get back racing fairly soon, I would think.
Until someone goes up on it, potentially.
Cynic.
So for Boston and Baker, they're quite close to the front of the queue now, aren't they, where they weren't on that original start. So that could be interesting to see how that goes. Packer's had his penalties on his way, and he's anxious to see which light's being shown, I'm sure.
Yes, green this time. The right one. So
that looks a bit oily, don't you, out there? It's in out of our window.
Perfect condition.
But like you say, there's probably not very much that can be done about it now.
Not in these conditions. Dan is going back in. Oh, Marlon Jones come in, hasn't he, to hand over to Roy Baptiste. Spot him down the stairs. He's one of the Class C drivers, of course. There is that car, so Roy Baptiste, number 98, will get into that. Baptiste, who is 4th in the championship. Mark Lloyd Jones coming into this weekend.
Into the pit comes the class leader and the championship leader within that class, Joel Oswald in the German Auto Works car. So Dan Alzano will get to do the second half.
Yeah, or more than half. We've got an hour and 11 minutes still to go. Drive route before refueling can get underway. There's the 49 car of Will Stacey. Hauled away. It's just on the exit of church at the moment.
It'd be interesting to watch the lap times on the restart because it would seem that conditions have deteriorated somewhat since that second car came in.
That's correct. Yeah. There's the Oswald car. Fueling going on. Let's return that machine. And there's the 98 car of Baptiste. Baptiste taking over that car for the second half. Keen to get out once the green light's on.
The German Auto Works car is being jacked up. Our RC leader, are they going for a tyre change or is there a problem there? We can get a closer look at this. quite crucial as a class championship leader and a class leader in the race up to this point. So if we get our camera to have a look at that, that'd be good. As the wheel safety cars are about to be brought across the circuit into the paddock, so therefore we're going to go green flag racing this time, which isn't ideal if German Auto Works are still going their pit stop. Next they see if that is the case, if vehicles are happy with the track condition. Again, the mechanic completely under the car here, so there is a tyre change going on the rear left. Is there more damage than that? Well, they're doing a suspension setup change possibly there to accommodate the change of conditions from an hour ago when they were getting ready to start the race. So interesting stuff there for the Class C Championship leaders. But the safety car lights are out, so Ben Rushworth will see a green flag again, just like he did about 10 minutes ago, and we'll get this race back underway. But just behind him, in what is currently second position, is Matt Fazy. Then behind him is the third place man, but a lap down, Rob Boston. And then there's a car between himself and his main rival to potentially battle for the win here, Rob Baker. And Rob Baker dipped a wheel over the grass there, coming out of the first corner. The lead has gone off. Ben Rushworth spun away the lead. We said the conditions had changed. He was the first driver to get there at speed. We know there was a bit of oil down as well, and Ben Rushworth has spun away the lead. So it's Matt Fazy, that man that likes Anglesey, in the Class B Porsche that leads the motor race.
But only for the moment, because Rob Boston is right behind him, a lap down, so he's got to unlap himself. But these cars are going to be, well, not that similar in performance. Right behind Boston, you've got the Audi TT, haven't you? That is a further lap behind.
Yep.
So
Daniel Sylvester looking pretty good in it. Probably the first time he's driven it in the wet, I would think. The MR2 Championship racer.
Yep. So the interesting situation here, where you've got Matt Fazy, who could potentially be continuing to lead, but unlapped. Of course, he's got a stop to make as Matt Fazy to hand over to Steve Hewson for the second part of the race. There's parking a bit Sylvester a bit sideways in the Darkside Developments Audi. You've got Rob Baker. And another off for the 66 car. He's been off there before. That's Paul Sabiani now in that car, though, isn't it? So they have to change driver Johnny Hayes in the first part of the race.
Okay, so how are the leaders going to get on down here? Because it's very slippery through the banking. So Matt Fazy and Rob Boston taking different lines. Boston going right up against the white line on the high side. And look at the grip he finds out there.
Yeah, it's the karting line, isn't it, as they say?
But he couldn't get past Fazy there to unlap himself. There's something else that could happen here. If he gets ahead of Fazy, then the safety car comes out again. He'll come right back onto the end of the first lap, where everybody else would be a lap down, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting situation. How are the lap times comparing to earlier? Well, they're in the 23s and 24s now, so a lot slow. Obviously, the track's not in good condition. But for our Class C Championship leader, still in the pit lane, so real dramas for the German Autoworks car. Dan Orsano not back out in the race. So the Class C leader is now the Mazda MX-5 of John Munro and Nick Dougal. Second in the class will be Paul Sheard, who has already made his stop.
Yes.
In the Mazda MX-5. Mark through.
John Munro yet to make the stop, of course. Here's Matt Fazy sideways, pushing on through the corkscrew. So you've got four quick cars here together, and you could see how oily the circuit was at the corkscrew there, couldn't you? So conditions really difficult. What are these lap times looking like as they come through? Matt Fazy comes across the line again. That was a 1:23 for him. So yeah, that's 4 seconds off his best time during the course of the race.
Rushworth's 2 seconds quicker than this lot in second place in the race.
But he's 6 seconds behind, so he's soon going to catch them again, isn't he? As Boston now tries to unlap himself from Matt Fazy at Church, and he has done it. So he goes on to the lead lap again, does Rob Boston. And Matt Fazy behind him. Then you've got Daniel Sylvester now. He's 2 laps behind the Porsche. So these two do quite a bit of work here. And then you've got the Baker and Swift car, which is on the same lap as Rob Boston. Well, just behind Rob Boston, effectively. That is the position.
That's on the inside of Fazy.
So he's unlapped himself as well, and I suspect Rob Baker might do so for too much longer as well.
The only rear-wheel drive car that really seems to be able to take it to the front-wheel drive machine at this stage are the Lotus Elises, isn't it? And perhaps helped by having such a talented Rob Boston at the wheel of it. He comes across the line there in 3rd place, but on the lead lap now, which is not the case currently for Rob Baker. Look at Ben Rushworth, he's continuing to chase that pack down. He was, what, 2.5 seconds quicker on that lap than the leader, Matt Fazy. So Ben Rushworth might get the lead back, but his stint perhaps not gone quite to plan. Further back in 5th place is Scott Parkin. He's ahead of Luke Handley now. Oh, and Fazy's there, he's sideways right in front of the championship leader, and Rob Baker just avoided him. He could have had a very similar situation. Look, still having a moment here is Matt Fazy. What, 100 or 200? And there's another car gone off behind him. So that's the Hayes car again, isn't it? Yeah, Hayes and Saviani. And another one off. Paul Shearder's gone off the road as well. So that's at the banking.
Yeah, so Paul Saviani off at the exit of church. You've got the 66 car there rejoining. Paul Sheard has gone off at the banking. He's back into the race as well. Matt Fazy ultimately has continued. That's a worrying moment there for that car, which is still well, it probably isn't now the leading car. So I imagine that Ben Rushworth has retaken the lead, hasn't he?
Yeah.
As a result of all of that.
But that moment for Cole Swift, that was, or for Rob Baker as it is now, was almost the same situation as Chris Freeman had earlier, except he was able to avoid the moment that was going on ahead of him. So there's Rushworth, our new leader, retaking the lead, I guess, in the Sayat there.
Yeah, he did a 121 on that lap, which is good going in the situation. Fazy goes across the line now in 2nd place, and what's the gap between them? Okay, it's between 12.5 seconds now, so he lost probably 15 seconds or something like that on that lap with that big moment coming out of church. And it was lucky that he didn't collect Rob Baker, but also he came back across the circuit at one point. There was always the worry there that someone else could be caught up in all of that.
3.2 seconds is the gap to monitor between Rob Boston and Rob Baker at this stage, because they're the leading stoppers still. And here's our two RC cars just together there, I noticed, because Dan Alzano back out in the race. But he's a number of laps behind John Munro now. So they're on 33, Munro on 35. So that's 2 laps between those 2 cars that are together on the circuit. Just heading there into Church Corner, the Mazda ahead of the BMW at this stage. Just heading out of shot there. There they are.
So the 2 top point scorers in Class C, the Alzano and Oswick car, that's had problems in the pit lane.
Paul Sheard is pitted after he's off.
Okay.
And he's driving into the garage, I think. So.
Okay. So to continue the point, Alzano and Oswick, they've had problems in the pit lane. Hayes and Saviani have had a number of spins. Nick Dougal and John Munro, they're still out there and leading Class C, but yet to make their stop. Of course, the quicker driver is out there at the moment, is John Munro.
The car in 5th place is into the pit lane, Scott Parkin. He's already made his stop, and is that the penalty area?
Yeah, that looks like the penalty area for him.
Just a stop go at, it looks to me to be.
Yes, I've not been notified of any particular reason, so...
He doesn't lose that much time, because he was only 10 seconds ahead of Luke Handley, and he's come out ahead of Luke Handley, it would seem. So stop go penalty isn't so much of a penalty round here.
If that was a pit lane speeding penalty, that's the only thing I could think it would be, given the range of penalties available.
Munro's pulled a long way clear from Dan Alzano there as well, so exactly quicker than BMW at this stage. As Baker there, heading through the traffic, how's he doing compared to Rob Boston? Was ahead of him. So there's a change of lead basically there. So Cole Swift has got himself up ahead of Rob Boston, who he was 2.8 seconds behind. So what has happened to Rob Boston on that lap? But that is the lead in stoppers. So in reality, really, the lead of the race has changed with Rob Baker getting ahead of Rob Boston. Potentially a drama on that lap for Boston. We'll have a look at those lap times, because that seemed to not be great for Boston. No, it was a 1:26, much slower than what he should be doing there. We'll have to see if he can get it back up to speed, whether it was just a small drama. It's about the smallest and biggest cars together on the track there, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the little Ginetta, that's now being driven by Matthew Tidmarsh. We've got the Holden Commodore. Is that stopped? I think it has, isn't it? So that's now being driven by Matty Taylor. Yes.
I'm not sure, but they're in 7th.
Yeah, possibly right. It could still be the Lashmore that's out there, couldn't it? Yeah. So not marked off. So yes, you may be right. That could still be out there for its first stint. It'll be due a pit stop fairly soon, I would think. I imagine it's quite a thirsty car, so perhaps it could stop too early in the race. There's the Class C leading car on screen now, heading into turn 1 at Target, that's number 3. That's the 117 car, Martin Gadsby, just and someone was getting a stop-go penalty there. You can see the board being hung out, but I couldn't see the number that was being shown to. So try and keep an eye out of the window for that, Josh.
Okay, Daniel Sano, I don't think enjoying these conditions terribly in the BMW there. He's doing a 132 where John Munro's doing 129. So quite a big difference. Rob Boston's kind of back up to speed now, but he's not lapping as quick as Rob Baker. So Rob Baker doing a very good job in what is third position currently. There's Parkin after his penalties. Came out though ahead of Luke Handley still. And it's got Parkin involved in the championship lead battle in Class B. Not really, where Handley is the championship leader. And he's just behind there, the car driven by Phil Driver had those problems earlier. Where did they come out? 20th, so way back. Unsurprisingly really, because it's a very long stop. How's Nigel Greensall getting on with his pace in the M3? He's a few seconds off, I think.
I think that probably one of the penalties, stop governance, is for number 5, and the other is for number 3 by the looks of it, which is John Munro. Because they were sort of wielding the board at him as he went past. So I think Packer, I wonder, because they took their penalty under a safety car. I'm not sure if you can do that or not.
Okay.
And what the issue would be for John Munro, I'm pretty sure it would be overtaking safety car yellow flags.
Yeah, that's a 1 minute penalty, wasn't it? So we'll see how that goes. There goes across the line the battle, will become the lead of the race between Baker and Boston. 2.1 seconds between them. That time Boston was quicker. So they trade fastest laps, or the fastest car on the track, those two. So that's really been a race-long battle, hasn't it? Although we haven't seen it all side by side, but it's always been pretty close. There, and they're in the traffic at the moment. So, but Daniel Sylvester's pulling away from them, isn't he? He's doing a really good job in the TT. He's there in 10th place, but he's probably the quickest car on average on circuit at the moment. So a real shame for them. They had that yellow flag penalty, but that's a much less needed penalty because you can't overtake under yellow flags. It needs to be fully cautioned. So it was a real costly mistake, that. That's why Ryan Parkin in the first part of the race, because if that wasn't to be the case, they might have been leading the race right now.
Yep. So 57 minutes of this race left to go, so well into the second half of it. Yeah, the marshal's gesticulating at John Munro because he's passed, I think, probably that board 3 times now, say, you have got a stop-go penalty, so you've got to stop. You've got to come into the pits, and certainly I can see the board, has got the number 3 on it. It's got another number on it as well, which I can't see.
But the team are just next to them, aren't they? The TWP team are just next to the marshals, so they should be aware of the penalty as well.
Yes, that should be on the radio, I
think John Erpiers, isn't he, by the looks of things? Perhaps he's been trying to argue the case, but he's maybe not been successful. 16 seconds, the lead gap for Ben Rushworth over Matt Fazy. And Rushworth at this stage is not on Baker's pace. And Baker showing his speed here, where Rushworth and Swift were pretty similar. It seems that Rob Baker has the better of Ben Rushworth at this point. There's Driver still. He's up to 19th now. And Scott Parkin who's 5th. And it's a third of the stoppers, so Scott Parkin can get a very good result out of this in the Diesel Go.
That's right, so he's heading into Church Corner now. Might be damaged a minute, but a squeal of tyres we can hear there. There's one pads off. And the Roy Baptiste BMW looks a little bit slow coming out of the banking, so I wonder if he had a bit of a moment there. Watch these 2 different laps. Oh, and there's a big moment for Dan Asano. He said he wasn't enjoying these conditions. He might well have been right there, Josh, because it was very sideways as he came down through the corkscrew there, and he, of course, is part of the Class C Championship leading team.
Much bigger gap this time, I'd suggest, between Swift, from between Baker and Boston. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, it's gone out to 4.5 seconds now. There's Munro in the penalty area, and it does look like it's that minute penalty you were anticipating. So this Class C battle, they might not have the biggest class in the Club Enduro Championship, but there's plenty of drama here. So the current race leaders in the penalty box. Second now in Class C is Steve Dolman and Matt Himlott, MX5.
Yeah, that's Steve Dolman at the wheel of that car at the moment, won't it? I think. And there's the 12 car, that's coming as well. Now that's also in the penalty box, and I think that is also a car. I did see a number 2 on the board, and so that could well be a penalty for Scott Parkin. And again, that might well be a sort of 1 minute jobby.
Well, they had that penalty, didn't they? But they were in the penalty box, but got out and hardly lost any time. So I wonder if there's a reason those two are linked or not.
Yes, we'll see what goes on there.
Munro's on his way. He'll still be leading, won't he?
Yes. Although, of course, he still needs to make his mandatory stop at some point in the next 40 minutes, 49 minutes.
Here's the lead of the race. Yet to stop, Ben Rushworth. Probably do an even longer stint than maybe he was anticipating in what are very tricky conditions to keep adapting to. He comes out across the line.
Yeah, perhaps complete 44 laps, isn't he, of the race in the hour and 10 minutes or so that we've had so far. And he is turning his way through the banking here. So it's number 2, Ben Rushworth leading. Number 13, second place is Matt Fazy. He's just gone across the line 18 seconds behind the leader. Of course, both of them need to make their stop. The first stoppers in 3rd place overall is number 1. That is Rob Baker now. 4th is number 9, 5 seconds behind Baker. That's Rob Boston. 5th is number 12, the car that's just been in the pits for another penalty stop. Scott Parkin, so he's dropping down the order now behind Luke Handley, number 51. 7th, not having yet made a stop in the 46 car, that's Matty Taylor and Will Ashmore. 8th is number 5, Jonathan Packer. 9th is number 11, Ryan Parker and Daniel Sylvester. 10th is the 117 car from Martin Galton. I don't think that's made a stop either as yet. You can just see their car going through shot, being lapped once again by the race leader, number 2, Ben Rushworth, former Hot Hatch and Metro champion. And then the Corton Miller Cupra. Oh, and off has gone number 8 for a brief spin. That's Matthew Tidmarsh in the Flying Tangerine Racing Ginetta G40. Picked up quite a lot of grass there on the front splitter of that car now. So 2.5 minutes remain. He's got to be up to 9th place now, so I'm pretty sure he hasn't made his stop. He's driving solo in that number 117 car. There's Fazy going through. And just behind Scott Parkin, yes, he's back out onto the circuit now. So Fazy, the driver, in 2nd place at the moment. Oh, and a spin, another spin for Julie McBride. She's already had an off there early on in the race at the exit of the corkscrew. The safety car. And this time he's able to get going a little bit more quickly. Julie McBride in the 67 car that's running in 15th position, having made it. Stop go penalty there we can see for 5 and 179. So that's Jonathan Packer still being urged into the pits in the 179 car, which is the David Gooding and Nigel Greenstall car. Nigel Greenstall now above that car that's running in 12th position, 3 laps behind the leader. So that car needs to come in for a pit stop. Maybe that's a penalty during the driver changes. There it is now, in fact. Nigel Greenstall in there to serve that penalty. In fact, the car is stationary for more than just a moment is indicative that that could be a yellow flag infringement or a safety car overtake. So that car will be stationed for a minute, beneath our commentary position, we think. So there is Scott Parkin going through at number 12. So he's dropped to 10th as a result of that penalty that he had to serve. He's 2 laps behind the leader at the moment. Don't forget that the lead lap is lap 46. And it's probably going to cost at least 2 laps to make a pit stop for either Ben Rushworth or Matt Fazy, unless there is another safety car at some point in the next 35 minutes, in which case they might be able to to benefit from that and not lose quality control. You're going to lose at least 2 laps at pit stop under normal racing conditions. So there is 13, Matt Fazy in the Intelligent Money liveried car. He's making his way through there. And he is from Solihull in the West Midlands. Started racing 5 years ago. Mostly in Club Enduro. This is his favourite circuit. He took an overall win in the Class B car here. And as well as it being a great circuit, he enjoys the view as well. He was in 10th. Steve Hewson's car, of course. We'll see Steve Hewson, the man from Stafford, out in the second part of the race. The Diagnostics technician, part-time racing instructor as well. He raced bikes originally in the late 1980s, which the cars in 2014. He was the Class C Club Enduro and overall class champion in 2018. We shared with Matt Nossiter. It's still Matt Fazy aboard that car at the moment. It's just behind the car that's sort of lapping in similar lap times, that of Scott Parkin, but that car being 2 laps, 3 laps actually, adrift.
Yeah, Scott Parkin obviously lost a lot because of the penalty, much like his brother had earlier on, that dropped the Audi and now runs in 7th. But Daniel Sylvester at the wheel, still one of the quickest drivers on the circuit soon, might gain some more positions. But there is the Porsche that you were telling us about of Fazy, now 21 seconds behind Ben Rushworth, and as I anticipate across the line Daniel Sylvester goes 6th ahead of Jonathan Packer, so he's recovering well. There's the second place car heading downhill towards the corkscrew.
Yep. And that Porsche was bought as a French road car in 2020 and self-converted by Steve Hewson. There's Luke Handley, so he for the moment is in 5th place overall and 3rd within the Class B, although that will become 2nd effectively, won't it, I think, once Fazy has pitted.
He's a long way behind from Boston though, if he's the class leader.
Yes, that's true.
And he's being caught for a position on road by Dan Sylvester, who's 20 seconds back, but lapping 4 seconds a lap faster last time around. That's quite big gains that Dan Sylvester is making, who's 3rd in Class A at this stage. What big slide there, who was that, 169? I think it's William Lynch, and here's E46 M3.
Looking at Class C, it looks likely to me that when they make their stop, John Monroe and Nick Dougal will lose out to Steve Dolman and Matt Himlott. So for the lead of that class, Joel Oswick and Dan Orsano about 30 seconds behind Dolman and Himlott. There's Packer back into the pits for a stop-go penalty.
Amazing.
Once again.
At least in 2nd, if not 3rd.
Yes, well, he's been here in it for a few occasions. There's Handley heading up the hill, number 51.
Just wondering, Ian, if we look at Luke Handley, whether he might be able to rack up the Class B title in this race, because he came into the weekend 18 points ahead of Chris Freeman, who's retired, and Jonathan Packer keeps getting penalties. So I think Luke Handley might be here on his way to wrapping up the Class B title a race early.
Yes, that's possible. One more race to go is at Alton Park next month. Final round of this TQR Club Enduro Championship. Packer's still there serving his. And so you can see the rain blowing across the pit lane as well. 3/4 of an hour or so left to go. There's the Classic Championship leading car just going through, Dan Orsano. What kind of lap times is he doing at the moment? He's doing 1:33s. So he is lapping a couple of seconds faster actually than Steve Dolman, who is ahead within that class. He's lapping several seconds slower, I should say, than John Monroe, but he's going to hand over at some point soon-ish. So Nick Dougal, I think. At least it will make a 3-minute pit stop either way. Even if the late call is made for John to do the full race distance.
There's Rob Boston as Nigel Greensill gets squeezed out over the curves, and there's some contact as he comes back on with Jonathan about it, so Rob Boston will be pleased to have got out of that. But Boston is now 8 seconds behind Rob Baker, so he can't live with the pace of Baker, it would seem. There's Greensill. He's up in the 124s, so it's not too bad. He's 14th in the race, in that M3. He shares with David Goodin. And they are one of the championship contenders in the Clubman Cup. Currently, I think, in 3rd place in the Clubman Cup.
That's right, yes, and the Jeff Stewart Racing car behind Taylor and Ashmore, and the Roses who aren't here this weekend, so could well get ahead of Lewis and Aaron Rose, depending on where they finish in the overall running order. So Rob Boston leading the Clubman Cup at the moment, isn't he?
Right. And second is the Holden, but yet fit.
Yeah.
Taylor and Ashmore. And then is Mark Gadsby's car a Clubman Cup car?
Let's have a look.
It's not, is it? I think it's got a suspension box press. So he's not the Clubman Cup. They're looking a bit further down the order. The car in the pit lane is Phil Knibb, who I don't think should be.
It's not a scheduled stop, is it? It's already made its stop. So that was from what position? 13th.
Okay.
Is that Jonathan Barrett just getting back out? No, it's the Browse car going out into the race again. That was the car that stopped earlier on. So I imagine that's Paul Browse now aboard now.
Third, I think, is Nigel Greensill in the Clubman Cup at this stage. He's doing a good job.
So on that basis, they would go ahead of the Roses, I think.
Yeah.
Second position with a round to go.
There's Scott Parkin in the traffic. He's 8th now after his penalty. Did he? Oh, there's been contact behind. There's a big spin for Julian McBride, who got tagged by somebody there. But it all got very tight. So that's a big speed at that point.
Yeah, high speed spin there for Julian McBride. There goes that Paul Browse car ahead of him now. Can Julian get the car? Follow up, it would be tricky to get the car moved back round. He's going to have to drive onto the grass to do so, I think, to get back into the race.
The car's moving now, though, isn't it?
It is. Just this is on the National Circuit Link.
Where he is, are you blinded perhaps a bit by the tyre wall? Which won't
Yes.
make it so easy. You know how fast the cars are going at this point.
Yeah. So he's going to try to rejoin. No, he's not going to try to rejoin now, which is probably just as well, because Donald Sarno is heading there. The problem is there's no real gaps in the traffic.
It might be quicker for him, although he might have to forego a lap, is to take the shortcut back here.
Yes.
And just forego that. The Holden for the pit lane.
Yes,
so
so
the car
that's a pit stop.
second in the Clubman's Cup. Will Ashmore is in to hand over to Matty Taylor. And he was 8th.
Okay. So still Julian McBride is stranded there. There's no marshal post there, so a marshal can't sort of indicate to when there's a gap in the traffic to go for it.
Now I'm not sure if the Holden might have been involved in that incident. There was a lot of cars around the area. So here's Dan Osano in the German Autoworks car. He's there in 21st, still behind the Dolman car.
Julian McBride's got going, by the way.
That's good news. There he is. That's good to see. Julian McBride, who was running 17th for that scary moment.
Yes, so 41 minutes of the race to go. The car's in the pit lane, but it looks like Phil Knibb's going to get back out into the race, having lost a couple of laps probably. With that extra stop.
Daniel Sylvester now just 4 seconds behind Luke Handley for 5th, and was going 4 seconds quicker. There's the Holden. I don't think there's any damage on that car. And there is the leader, just with Daniel Sylvester actually, is Rob Baker. So these are, I think, the two quickest cars at the moment. And just ahead should be a Golf. Just ahead, Luke Handley. So I don't think this lap Sylvester will gain that place, perhaps on the next one.
Maybe so. It's this race remaining. Best lap still with Rob Boston, of course, at 1:17.62. That was much earlier on when the conditions were much improved compared to where they are now.
The Friday fitting after that one.
Yes, he's had a few moments during the course of this race, hasn't he? Unfortunately.
big powerful BMW is probably not the nicest car to drive in these conditions either.
No, especially after we've had such a good weekend weather-wise before we got to this race.
Yeah, yesterday was a lovely day to be here. Today rather less for the moment.
It was always forecast this way though, that the rain would come in during the afternoon.
You can see out the window now Daniel Sylvester is with Luke Handley as they head up the hill towards the hairpin. So that position will change shortly. There's a tyre change going on for Julian McBride. See if that helps having some new grooves.
It looks like Daniel Sylvester has got through at the top of the hill and through into 5th position.
And that's the third of the stoppers, isn't it? So that's a good recovery from being a lap down with the penalty early on.
So still wait though for Ben Rushworth and Matt Fazy to make their stops. They've only got 25 minutes to do that in now, because you have to stop before the final 15 minutes of the race.
Yeah, so probably Ben Rushworth's longest stint he's done, I think. There he is, I think, the leader, number 2.
Yeah, and just going past the MX-5 there.
Half a minute ahead of Matt Fazy, 66 seconds ahead of the third place car, Rob Baker, who is lapping slightly quicker than him.
That's the 52 car, which is the car that will I think take the lead in the Class C once John Munro pits, the Steve Dolman driven MX-5. They're 28 seconds ahead of Dan Orsano, who's third within that class.
Has the Dolman car pitted?
Yes, that did pit.
Yeah. Okay. Currently, he's being caught by Dan Orsano. He's 12 seconds back. Despite the longer pit stop, the German Autoworks BMW might still get a very good result out of this.
Yeah, good will do. Jonathan Barrett be able to just go on the screens now at the exit of the corkscrew to complete another lap. That's car number 7. Runs in 17th position. Still the Army Motorsport cars in the pit lane, so it's a longer stop than I think it ought to have been. Hand over to Matty Taylor.
He's got a lot of fuel perhaps going to that car.
And the scrutineer just pointing something out as well, I think.
There's Greensall, who started the lap in 12, but I think he's got past William Lynch for 11. In the top 10's the Janetta, that pitted, didn't it already?
Yes.
So Matthew Tidmarsh and Chris Webster on for a pretty decent result here. The best result we've seen from that car this year, not been on the podium I don't think. I don't think it is going to be here either. Currently 6th, I think, in Class B. So there's more Class B cars than Class A cars in the top 10, aren't there?
Yeah, there's the Class C leader at the moment, John Munro, in the TWP Racing number 3 car, sharing with Nick Dougal, of course. But John, 24 years of age, from Banbury now, having moved down from the Highlands as a video producer. And he started racing in 2015. He was the Max 5 champion in 2016. He was a Scottish Sprint champion in 2014 as well. He's been racing his team for a few seasons now. Dougal, his teammates from Northampton, the MRF tyre supplier, racing in 2008. We'll see him soon, but not just yet. It's John Munro staying out there for a little bit longer. The car prepared by TDI, Wrexham University. So this is one of their 2 home races between here and Alton Park, which is the final round of the championship next month. There's Munro. He's in 13th position overall, 52 laps in the book for him, 56 laps in the book for our race leader Ben Rushworth, who also has yet to make a stop. Cars heading through Church here, including John Munro, but the Audi TT of Daniel Sylvester has just passed them.
For John Munro and Nick Dougal, their best result so far this year was 2nd, which came in Croft, Class C.
We've got Carl Swift here and Daniel Sylvester. They're still doing very similar lap times. They're back at about 1 minute 20.5 last time through, although they're on different laps. Rob Baker, we should say, in the number 1 car, he's up to 56 laps. Sylvester did 55.
Yeah.
Cars did 55 laps.
Well, Baker can't get past, can he? And Sylvester is doing a grand job. I don't think he's going to overtake any more cars on track because Rob Boston is quite a long way ahead, over a minute, I think.
It's 13 seconds behind Baker.
It looks like Jack Hardin's that record is going to stay, isn't it?
Yes.
Enduro. Oh, no, we're talking up Sylvester, he's not very sideways. He managed to get that away. And now Monroe is in, but into the garage.
Yes. So, is there a particular reason for that? They're getting the car jacked up. Is this always part of the plan? John Monroe getting out quickly, like it's a planned stop. And there's Ben Rushworth. So it's all happening. All of a sudden, Ben Rushworth, the race leader, coming in as well. In the Coulter Miller play on. So he's going to get out of the car. Here's these two cars that have been so evenly matched, different laps, but this is the car that will eventually move up to second place then, with Rushworth having now stopped. That's the Dayglow yellow and black Seat of Rob Baker. There you can see fire extinguishers on hand as required when the refuelling is being done. We're doing the tyres, you can see a change of driver there.
I did wonder how front tyres last year. Weather conditions have sort of changed how it would have been otherwise. Yeah, they are putting new front tyres on for James Ramsden, so hopefully he'll have a bit more front end grip to work with. How far are they going to pull down the order? Because they're doing this under green flag conditions. Wasn't the case for the race. They'll probably leave just over 2 laps, won't they?
I would think so.
Which, in Class A positions, will probably still mean they're third, won't it, behind Baker and Sylvester?
Yeah, I think that's pretty correct. Looking at how this is going to play out, which is still a good return from where that car qualified on the grid, of course. Which was doing a good job to get it up the order, and then obviously taking the lead. The others made their stops behind the safety car we had about half an hour or so into the race.
We've got Baker's 20 seconds ahead of Boston now, so brilliant drive at this from Rob Baker. Really quick in this car. Harry Motorsport obviously know these cars so well. Running the cars here, so in the TCR UK Championship. Also an Alpha Live. And there's the Porsche Miller Cup, just losing the class leaders. Rob Baker went across the line there.
Yep, so of course it's now Matt Fazy in the lead of the race until he makes his pit stop.
Only 22 seconds ahead of Baker.
Yes, that's true. Lapping about 4 seconds lap, so he could even lose the lead before he makes his pit stop here. Matt Fazy. Hand over to Steve Hewson for the final knock-ins of this race.
I think our cameraman Church is getting battered. He's probably closest to the sea, isn't he?
He is, yes. Very exposed camera position there. Just on the cliff edge, more or less. Attacked from 2 directions. He's been attacked by cars heading towards him. He's attacked by the wind and rain blowing from behind him as well.
Just see Dolman being lapped there, and he's been passed by Dan Orsano on the last lap they came through. There's Orsano just ahead. He's pulling clear now. So that is for the lead now in Class C, I think.
Yes, because Steve Dolman's been lapping much more slowly than Dan Orsano. Orsano's been doing 128s. Sort of 4 seconds off that car's best, whereas Dom's being doing 134, which is sort of 6 seconds off that car's best. So that is Dan Orsano effectively will be into class lead, I think. I've not seen the car 3 go back out yet. Big sideways moment there for the Audi.
He's got out just ahead of James Ramsden, I think. Or Ramsden another lap back. Either way, ahead into 4th position for Sylvester, and he's still ahead on the road of Rob Baker. Yep, they work their way through Church Corner. Yeah, I think Ramsden's another lap back, isn't he, on Sylvester? So Luke Handley has come through to 5th. And I suspect Scott Parkin will come through to 6th. So I think James Ramsden's probably 7th after his pit stop. There's Rob Boston. How far behind Rob Baker is he now? 22 seconds. It's about a second a lap at the moment. There's the Janetta we mentioned, 10th for Matthew Tidmarsh. Martin Gadsby hasn't stopped yet, has he? So he's in.
Yep, so this is one of the later stoppers.
Oh, and off has gone Jonathan Packer. He's there. Oh, the car's behind him's gone off as well. A spin for the car behind him on the road was facing backwards. So Jonathan Packer rash track his way back on. But can we have a look at the other car? Oh, there's a couple of cars involved perhaps.
Luke Browse, he's had a moment, or Paul Browse, that will be the Aston Martin's last car, which seems to come to a stop again. Just on the inside of the banking, half an hour from race to go. Is that car going to fire up?
Lots of movement inside the cockpit.
Yes. There's the Gadsby car in the pit lane then, number 117. Driven solo this weekend.
I think Greensall is into 2nd in the Clubman Cup now. After the pit stop for the Holden.
Paul Browse car still there, isn't it? Which is a slight worry. You can see the safety car lights are on at the end of the pit lane.
I think Michael Downey 3rd in Clubman Cup.
And the safety car's going out onto the circuit. So, going to get yellow flags.
Now, situation here, if we end up getting Rob Baker behind the safety car, I don't know whether that will happen or not, Daniel Sylvester will move on to the lead lap of the race, won't he? Oh, Beatty hasn't pitted, so he will be the car behind the safety car. I thought he was going to come in, but he hasn't.
No.
Oh, is this car running slowly?
That's the 52 car, that's the Mazda, which was running well in Class C for a time, but unfortunately that's Steve Dolman and Matt Pemlock car. Steve Dolman at the wheel at the moment, we think.
He was shaking the car about here, and the Nick Dougal Mazda goes back out. That was a long stop, surely, wasn't it?
It was, yes, and it was interesting that they'd taken that into the pit garage as well, so really that puts Dan Orsano into a comfortable position within Class C. He's ahead of that Dolman car, and then it's Paul Saviani, and then it's Rory Baptiste, and only then is it Nick Dougal, so they're back down to 5th place within Class C now.
I wonder if Oksana can win the championship again. Probably not. I don't think.
Yeah, because they've had a non-finish and a race they didn't enter as well, didn't they? So, although they've had 3 wins, drop score's not massively going to apply to them, are they?
No, but they're pretty close now, I think. If they win, of course. They haven't done yet.
No, they've got 27 minutes to go, some of which will be behind the safety car now, while the Paul Browse cars will be.
I think Hayes and Saviani will have to finish 2nd behind them. Possibly, if they're going to make that work.
We'll see if that's going to happen or not. So the safety car has picked up Matt Fazy. Now is he going to stay out for a bit longer, or is he going to finally come into the pit lane? He is going to head into the pit, so Matt Fazy heads into the pit lane, which means that the car now behind the safety car is number 5, Jonathan Packer.
It'll be interesting here if they decide to pick up Cole Swift or Baker as the leader or not.
Yes, because he is
4th in line, 5th in line, 6th in line.
Yes, I was looking for him. He'd already gone past me, hadn't he? So.
For Daniel Sylvester, that's where it's really important, isn't it? They want to be waved through, because then they're on the lead lap.
Yeah.
They'll have a lot of traffic between themselves and what will be the top 2. Fazy and Hewson could be in a good place here, couldn't they? They'll only lose a lap if they do the same as what everybody else has done. They'll probably come out in 5th place, I think, which would be 3rd in Class B. Possibly 6th actually. About 4th. So fairly well up. So it's worked out for them, hasn't it? Waiting as long as possible for this latest safety car period. That's getting even worse than it was earlier, I think. Up there at Church. Pretty vital conditions up there. Greenstall is in for a tyre change, so he's obviously not enjoying the tyres that he was on. Perhaps he wants some more grooves to help him out. Nigel Greenstall currently 10th.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, second in the Clubman Cup. He's not going to catch Boston, is he? That's not going to happen, not on pace anyway. But then Downey is third. He's a lap behind at this stage. So Greenstall really wants to get out on this lap they're currently on, or they might lose the place in the Clubman Cup. Which, as you were saying earlier, for the older cars that don't have sequential gearbox.
So, yep, we'll get that car back out into the race.
But they should do a further lap. Green light's still on.
It is, so they'll get that car out, I'm sure. And into the race. 24 minutes to go. Here at Anglesey Circuit's final race of the weekend for the 750 Motorsport Ski World Club Enduro Championship, which close to being resolved in the various classes, and with still the remaining meeting of the season to take place at Alton Park next month. Phasey Entertaining is there in the pit lane, but now back to the serious business of getting Steve Hewson back out into the race. There's the Paul Browse car, number 22, about to be brought back to the paddock now that there's a gap in the traffic. That's the second time that car's had to be brought back during the course of this race, I think. So possibly they will admit defeat now, the Browse team. See him coming down the pit lane, and shortly I think the Hewson. Oh yeah, that's been pushed back now. We're back out to the race. There'll be a green light again with the pit lane. And that will be able to catch up with the Crocodile, which is headed by the second court at the moment. It should go past the school. And starting to climb up towards Rocket. On a wild afternoon in Wales. Really haven't taken a turn for the worse this afternoon here. It was a glorious day yesterday. It's the kind of place we can get 4 seasons in one day, then we'll see. Stick the autumnal at the moment. I've seen Nick Dougal's car go through there. He's still in 5th place within Class C at the moment. Long pit stop for the team. The safety car lights are out, so it looks like the race is going to get back underway. The safety car is in, green flag is prepared, so with just under 22 minutes remaining, the green flag waves and we go back racing once again. And there's the safety car coming down the pit lane. So, Carl Swift was 6th in line, and he's still just behind there for the Daniel Sylvester Audi TT. And they will try and pick them up as they come out of the banking. They've got to 3rd and 4th in the queue now, Sylvester, and then Swift, and then Baker, I should say.
Rob Boston's still 12 seconds behind the leader, so yeah. Gain, let's say, because there's so many cars in between himself and Baker. But of course, Boston doesn't need fast speed. That's the main thing. But for Daniel Sylvester, he didn't get onto the back of the queue, which probably get hoping for.
That's right. So I think possibly now, with everyone having made their stops, it's just a bit of sense to run down the order for those of you wanting to do so. Lead then is number 1, which is Rob Baker in the Seat Leon. 65 laps, second up 9, Rob Boston, 12 seconds behind him. third is number 11, that's Daniel Sylvester, or a lap behind. Fourth is number 51, Luke Handley, 14 seconds behind him. Fifth is two cars. One of those is Daniel Sylvester. So one of the front running cars, so he's frustrated. The other car is the Ginetta of number 8, which is Matthew Tidmarsh for the second part of the race, and also Jonathan Barrett's car looked like it was off up there as well. So double wave yellows there. There's the Sylvester car that was in third position, ahead of Luke Handley, Scott Parkin, Steve Hewson, James Ramsden, Jonathan Packer, Matthew Tidmarsh, William Lynch, who completed the top 10. So we've still got those cars stranded there. Yellow flag still waving up at the top of the hill, I think. So there's our race leader. You can see Daniel Sylvester, the number 11 car, tumbling down the timing screen now, so it's behind Scott Parkin, the car right in front of Scott, and also Steve Hewson now, the Porsche Cayman having gone ahead. And 4 behind as well, I'm sure. James Ramsden, unless it can get going again. The Ginetta, which was involved up there, is into the pit lane, I can see, number 8. So Matthew Tidmarsh and the Ginetta G40 into the pits. And they were from a good position as well, from 9th place. And 6th within Class B. More Class B cars than Class A cars in the top 10, as we've been saying.
4 Class B cars in the top 5 minutes, haven't we? Daniel Sylvester tries to get back going. But here, we've got a bit of a battle balance for third in the race. Luke Handley versus Scott Parkin in this blue. Heading down towards the corkscrew. Handley's got to the front of it almost. Parkin's right there now. So what is second in Class B and the third overall. Can Scott Parkin get that position away? They come up across the line as we want the leader, and yet the 2 goals absolutely together into third one. So a great battle there for third position in the race, heading down towards the bank. Luke Handley still ahead of Scott Parkin, but he's under threat now.
Well, Parkin we've seen going through shot there on racing, and shortly we should see. There is Daniel Sylvester still trying to. Well, I'm not sure what he's trying to do or where he's trying to go really. Get back to paddock maybe.
And side by side into Church, right round the outside. It's got Scott Parkin for third place, and he goes through. Great move there from Scott Parkin. I wonder if he put new tyres on in one of those stops, because he had lots of grip there. And they're both being reeled in by Steve Hewson on that lap. Steve Hewson was 4 seconds quicker than Parkin. It might have been down to traffic, but he's only 5 seconds back. So for the podium positions in Class B, they're up for grabs.
Yes, certainly are. So keep an eye on that one. They're heading into the yellow flag zone at the top of the hill. The race leader's gone through to complete that number 68 now. And just having a look to see those cars coming back down towards me, towards the corkscrew. Daniel Sylvester is at the corkscrew now, but you've got Scott Parkin, then you've got Luke Handley, and then you've got, yes, the Cayman closing on them. Now, how far behind was the Cayman? 5 seconds behind at the start of the lap. It's probably still about 5 seconds behind, I reckon, as they headed into the corkscrew. We'll get official confirmation of that as they come over the line this time. But certainly it is now for second place in Class B, third overall, Scott Parkin, number 12. And the Cayman has just crossed the line as well. Waiting for the screen to update itself. And he is... Well, he's actually lost a bit of time. He's lost a couple of seconds on that occasion as Steve Hewson. So he's now about 7.6 seconds behind behind Luke Handley. As for the pits is Daniel Sylvester in the number 11 Audi TT. So their race has really come unstuck. The car gradually tumbling down. The time it's been showing at 8 at the moment. 16.5 minutes to go. That's the number 66 car we can see on the screen, which is third in Class C. It's Paul Subiani at the moment.
I think that pass that we saw from Scott Parkin on Luke Handley is important for the Class B Championships. I think that pass has meant that we can continue on and be decided at Oldham Park.
There's the Audi heading into the pit garage. Looks like the race is over for the car. 16 minutes of the race left to go. So there's the Steve Hewson Porsche Cayman then. Has he had a better lap this time? Is he able to catch Luke Handley. Handley's just gone across the line now. Steve Hewson about to do likewise, so when the screen updates itself we'll let you know the gap between them. It is now nearly 7 seconds, it's about 7 seconds between them, but Handley's lost 3.8 seconds to Parkin, so looks like Hewson lapping faster than Handley but not as fast as Parkin, so maybe third place is in the class B is the limit of Steve Hewson's ambition here in the Porsche Cayman.
Packer just went up and rocket while you were talking about that. Didn't lose huge time with that. Lead in the working lap 70, 15 seconds between Baker and Boston. There is the leader.
Yep, and it is Rob Baker then at the wheel of it, as it has been for the majority of this race. Carlton stopping fairly early on.
They're in the way to winning the overall championship here too.
Yes, of course. They've obviously dominated Class A this season. The overall title as well, researching the class battles possible to resolve at Alton Park.
Yeah, we can see looking like they might go all the way. In the Braves, Daniel Sarno leads Class C by 6 seconds over Steve Dolman.
We just see Jonathan Barrett being lapped by Rob Baker, the 50-year-old financial analyst from Tunbridge, who started racing 1999. It's for 2019. Various races, Brit Car Trophies, and the 500-minute Enduro car race at Brands Hatch as well. And he's in the Saxon Motorsport Straight 6 3.2 litre. It's at the Abrams Car Cup Racing Championship car. There is a very wayward Rob Boston going through. He's in second place, 16 seconds behind the race leader, Rob Baker. Leading Class B by a very comfortable margin indeed. And still he's lapping 5 seconds slower than he was in the early stage of this race before the weather conditions really deteriorated. Okay. Don't think Daniel Silvestre too impressed there with Ginetta, driver. I'm sure that will be dealt with after the race. Camera in front of his face. Maybe not the wisest. Anyway, 12 and 3/4 minutes left to go. It is still Rob Baker leading the way then from Rob Boston in second place, Scott Parkin third, Luke Handley fourth. Force third within Class C. It's now 5 seconds between Luke Handley and Matt Fazy. There's 12 minutes to go, so it's going to be touch and go, isn't it? Whether Steve Hewson, sorry, can catch Luke Handley.
It did start at 5 seconds at the gap, then it went out a bit, and then it's gone back down again. Somebody that's made progress is Phil Driver. Remember they had that long stop. He's up to 9th, and he's right with William Lynch, I think. So that could be a change. And they're both being caught, are they, by Nigel Greensall with those new tyres on in 10th. He's the third in Class A, isn't it? That battle for 8th position is the podium in Class A. So Ben Salmon and William Lynch, first time out of this Class A M3, actually going alright. But I think they're going to lose out to the Seat of Phil Driver. The leaders are going to go through the traffic, and for Rob Baker, he had a very near moment, didn't he, with the Holden as they went through the kink at school. He sorted it out, but he wasn't sure. I don't think if Matthew Taylor had seen him.
Yep, heart in the math moment there, I'm sure, for Rob Baker there. He's putting the lap on Nick Dougal.
Unless Driver going through ahead of Lynch, and takes for 8th to 3rd in Class A after that.
Yes.
4 seconds quicker than them though was Nigel Greensall. 4 seconds quicker than Lynch anyway.
Yes, and a couple of seconds quicker than Driver as well, wasn't he? So that could change before the end. Of course, Greensall we saw come in for those new tyres, possibly more to his liking. Lapping in the 120 6s. which is as fast as anybody else apart from the top 3 or 4 drivers at the moment. So he's going very well indeed. 10 minutes remain, moving towards the conclusion of this race now. Very wet, gloomy picture at Anglesey circuit. Baker just trying to hang on really, hope the car remains reliable for the next 10 minutes of this race. Looks like that's going to be the only thing that can stop him now. Obviously we've lost a few cars during the course of the race. I think we've lost half a dozen in fact. Julie McBride, the Sheridan Ritchie car, the Browse car which has been off twice, but Stacey of course, Chris Freeman and Yvonne Houflar, who had that incident of Peel, which triggered the first safety car of the race. There's the second place car, the Class B leader, Rob Boston.
Yeah, he's dominated the class, hasn't he? As the second place man in Class C had an incident. That's Steve Dolman, who was just 12 seconds behind the lead. It's got a decent amount of damage by the looks of it to the front of the Paul Gin Racing Mazda. That has to the bank here. There's never another car involved.
Yeah, they're about a minute ahead of the next car in that class. 50 odd seconds ahead anyway of Roy Baptiste.
Who's not very far ahead. Oh, he's got ahead actually, hasn't he? Of Hayden Saviani.
Yes, that's true. Just on the previous lap, I think, in actual fact. Yes. So Baptiste up to third place within that class, and now is closer to Steve Dolman, Mazda MX-5 as well. Still it's Dan Orsano leading in class C though in 16th place overall.
There's Boston, carving his way through traffic. He was quick in the lead on the last lap by a second. 15 seconds the gap. Just working his way through Church corner there. And then climbing uphill. Third, still Scott Parkin. Fourth for Luke Handley and fifth for Steve Hewson. He's not making so many inroads into Luke Handley's gap. And sixth is James Ramsden. Seventh for Jonathan Thacker. Eighth for Phil Driver, who's pulled clear of William Lynch now, who has been caught by Nigel Greensill. Greensill gaining a place shortly, I think. Another lap. And that place has changed, I think, on the banking. So Greensill is now 9th, and that is 4th in class. I think, yeah.
It's the Holden going through. Back with Boston watching him. He's still pushing on, isn't he, Rob Boston here? 14 seconds behind the leader.
He was a second quicker again. That's 2 laps in a row where he's been a second quicker than Rob Baker.
Yeah, it's too late though, isn't it? Because they're only going to get probably 6 more laps in. And he's 14 seconds behind. So I don't think he's going to catch Baker unless something very odd happens. Closing stages. You can see just how wet this circuit is now. In practice, the best lap times are 1:11. The best lap of the race has been a 1:17, but the best laps at the road is about 1:22. So even the quick drivers sort of, well, if we actually compare like for like, Boston at 1:13 compared to 1:22, he's 9 seconds off the pace. So actually, the gap from the dry lap time to the full wet as it now is lap time, not as big as you might think, only 9 seconds.
Not quite as dramatically close as we saw in Pembroke, though. That was
No.
interesting, wasn't it? Then other circuits, Netherton, for example, I know it's a long lap, but even so, they normally have a real big difference there. That's probably a very slippery track in the wet.
Yeah, it's all about the grip levels that the circuit offers, and of course the circuit layout as well. Obviously this is quite a low speed circuit anyway, so I guess the speed differential is not quite as great. That's the number 12 car then, running in third position, Scott Parkin. He is about 10 seconds clear now of Luke Handley. It's still about a, what have we got, a 4 and a bit second gap between Luke Handley and Steve Hewson, so Steve Hewson running out of time to get onto the Class B podium here.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. It stayed really at 5 seconds, around there, more or less, for a long time now. Scott Parkin goes through, he's all the way clear of that now. Good drive from the driver in the TDI Gold. louder than the cars.
Yeah, well, I think it is now a question of clinging on to the drivers, just bringing the cars home. It's not.
So on that lap here, EQ's going to get down to 3 seconds to Luke Handley. We're talking about more about 5 seconds. That lap was a big time.
Yeah, 1:23.59 for Hewson, 1:24.67 for Handley. Parking is ahead of both of them within Class B, and second within Class B at the moment. And well ahead of Handley and Hewson. Just pick up where those are going to be. They'll be down towards. Yes, the gap seems to have come down again between them on this lap. So Hewson, I think, has taken a bit more time out of Handley. It was 3.2 seconds. It looks like it might be a bit less than that now. They've got the Seat Leon between them. They cross the line now to complete their 76th lap. And what's the gap between them now? It's about 2.1 seconds now. So really close battle between these two. Got Phil Driver there in the Leon. In between them, he's a lap behind, well, actually several laps behind them, in 8th place.
Luke Handley hasn't finished on the podium all season. There's a threat that could happen today. They're in 3rd position, but with Steve Hewson clawing that gap down.
Only 3 3/4 minutes remain though, so not much time left for Steve Hewson, even if he catches him to try and find a way through. And that car should be quicker really, in between them as well, the Phil Driver. Captain Motorsport Leon. It's not going to make life any easier for Steve Hewson, I don't think. The gap's certainly coming down.
Driver tries to find a way past Handley. That might
well, yes, that could work if Hewson can get up behind the Seat, and then as it tries to make a move on lap itself, he can get through. That might be his best chance, I suppose. So the gap was 2.1 seconds. It's going to be a bit less than that again as they come across the line to complete lap number 77. Just wait for the screen to update itself. Yeah, 1.8 seconds now between them. So it's come down again.
Lead gap's now 11 seconds. It's one of the smallest winning gaps that what they could have. But in the class, they lead by about 3 laps. So class division is not very close. The overall lead is pretty close still. Considering there's Handley. He seems to have got the measure now again as Steve Hewson. The Phil Driver, is he lapping quicker? Driver did a 23.4, so about a 10th quicker than Luke Handley. Have a couple of laps to go now.
Yes, yeah, we'll soon see the last lap board being shown to Rob Baker. So what have we done? We've done 79 laps of the 1 lap race, 82 lap race. You can see our club photographer John Elsey now in position for that checkered flag shot. He's there on the pit wall. It does look a bit damp, now you mention it. There goes the Hewson car through again, and I think the gap has come down again. Yes, we've got 1.6 seconds, but I think he is running out of time. Just looking, yes, here comes the car of the race leader, and did the last lap board go out or not? Yes, the last lap board is shown there. Yeah, can't quite tell.
Yeah, well, we only had a minute and 15 to go when he crossed the line,
yes.
So certainly should be the final lap of the race.
Ought to be. So there's Handley, there is Driver and the car behind him. So these have got a lap and a half to go. It's Steve Hewson then. So they're getting closer all the time, but possibly just going to run out of time, Steve Hewson.
Quite a lot of traffic here though, so there's a bit to go on there, isn't there?
Check flag certainly been made ready beneath me now, as Rob Baker is up at Rocket. So it's just behind that group of cars there. Just coming down to start its final lap. There's our Class C leader as well. Dongles number 53. Here's our overall race leader though. Number 1, Rob Baker. They've won 4 of the 5 races so far this season. Carl Swift and Rob Baker. Between them, checkered flag is made ready. The car is coming through the final corner now, and the checkered flag waves, and it is victory for Carl Swift and Rob Baker in the Tagiwa Club Enduro Championship. Second place will go the way of Rob Boston, and he will win Class B as well. Congratulations on a very good drive from Rob Boston in these difficult conditions. And then we'll see Scott Parkin come through in a little bit, just keeping an eye on Steve Hughes. I don't think he's going to be getting close enough to Luke Handley.
I think he's got to get past Handley if he wants to have a chance for the championship.
Okay, so I think he's going to run out of chances to do that. They are up at the top of the circuit, still got the Phil Driver car between them as well.
And I think if Handley hangs on, that's the Class C title going in his direction here today.
So we're watching those now as they, well, I'm watching them at least, as they come out of Peel to see they are going to change order now. I don't think they are, because you've got Luke Handley still with Phil Dryborough behind him. There's our race winner on his slowing down lap, number 1, Rob Baker. But up to the line now comes Luke Handley, so he takes 3rd place within Class B behind Scott Parker and Steve Houston. You can see the pink and blue Porsche there just in behind in 5th place and 4th in Class B. So that brings to an end our racing here today at Anglesey, I should say. Carl Swift and Rob Baker winning the Tagiwa Club Enduro Championship race. 81 laps they completed in the 2 hours and 5 minutes available to them in the Seat Leon TCR car, the area Motorsport car. Second to number 9 Rob Boston, the Lotus Elise, winning Class B. Then the 3rd place car, 12 Scott Parkin, he was a lap down, 80 laps completed for the VW Golf. 4th was number 51 Luke Handley. And then I think the remaining finishers were Edward Christie, the Tidmarsh and Webster car. That was a pit visitor, as were the Parkin and Sylvester car. So I think Christie was the final finisher probably.